Hi everyone, and welcome back to Vetted, the show where we explore the systems, stories, and changemakers shaping veterans' lives today. At GenVets, we believe serving those who served begins with genuine listening. By creating space for truth, context, and conversation, we make room for something even more powerful to arise, the space where solutions can take shape. This episode continues our series exploring alternative and complementary paths to healing, because recovery is never one size fits all. Whether it's equine therapy, hyperbaric oxygen, or sensory-based tools, every approach opens a different doorway toward one shared goal: post-traumatic growth. That powerful space where pain gives way to purpose and resilience becomes renewal. My guest today, Adora Winquist, embodies that transformation. She's the founder and CEO of Opus Gaia, a company focused on human and environmental resilience through modern alchemy, a system that uses neuroscience and sensory-based tools to strengthen emotional regulation, mental clarity, and mission readiness. For more than 3 decades, Adora has stood at the intersection of science, spirit, and service, bridging ancient healing wisdom with modern research on the nervous system and emotional regulation. Her career began long before wellness became an industry buzzword. She built one of the first essential oil product lines to achieve national retail distribution, then redirected that entrepreneurial success towards something far more mission-driven: MilSpec formulas. MilSpec formulas is where the worlds of aromatherapy and operational readiness meet. It's a product line and training approach designed for military service members, veterans, and first responders, for anyone whose nervous system has lived at high alert for too long. The MilSpec system isn't about diffusers and spa days. It's about science-based sensory tools that help the body recalibrate under pressure. By engaging the 5 senses, smell, sound, touch, sight, and taste, it helps retrain the nervous system to shift from fight or flight back into focus, clarity, and calm. And now, the U.S. Army is taking notice. Beginning in December 2025, Adora and her team will launch a trial program introducing MilSpec formulas within select Army wellness and readiness initiatives, a powerful signal that even the most traditional institutions are recognizing the importance of nervous system regulation and evidence-based recovery tools for service members. I first met Adora this past summer at the Healing Hut, a Department of Defense-sanctioned alternative medicine team supporting service members, veterans, and their families at the 2025 Warrior Games in Colorado Springs. It's a remarkable initiative led by Lieutenant Colonel Stephanie Shaver, whose vision and leadership are truly the heart of that operation. Adora, though, brought something equally vital: an energy that grounded and lifted everyone around her. She was quite literally its soul. And in one of those you can't make this up twists of fate, that word happens to be both her married name and the name of the company she founded years before she ever met her husband, Soul Industries. Through Opus Gaia's network, the Soul Institute, Evolve Frequency, High Vibe Aromatics, and MilSpec formulas, Adora demonstrates how business itself can operate as a force for regeneration. Her philosophy is simple: when individuals learn to regulate their own systems, communities begin to heal too. And for veterans and leaders who might think this conversation is outside the wire of what usually fits in their toolkit, I'd argue this episode is exactly where science and readiness intersect. Because regulating the nervous system isn't soft, it's tactical. It's how we recover faster, think clearer, and stay mission capable in every part of life that follows service. So take a deep breath wherever you are, lean in, pay attention, and genuinely listen to this conversation with Adora Winquist, entrepreneur, researcher, healer, and modern alchemist on what it really means to bring mind, body, and mission back into alignment. Let's get into it. Hi, Adora. I am so excited to see you this morning and to welcome you onto the show because, well, this isn't the first time we've done this, is it?
No, it certainly isn't. But to be here with you right here, right now, couldn't be better. Thank you for the privilege of being here with you and sharing about the work that I'm doing, the work that MilSpec is doing, and our mission and vision for our ever so important military community and their families. And this mission is so close to my heart and soul. Pun absolutely intended.
Absolutely.
And I just have to, bring in a little bit of levity because levity is so key, right? To bring lightness to the moment, to smile, to laugh, because even when we do that, those feel good chemicals, right, that our brain produces, since we're walking pharmacies, right, we're able to click into a betterment of our feeling experience, even here in this moment, and bring all of your listeners and viewers with us, which is really part of the essence of MilSpec. But the funny little story is that my husband, who is my co-founder with MilSpec Formulas, John Soul, we met about, 8 years ago now. And then I was the founder of a new venture called the Soul Institute. So now as Adora Soul, founder of the Soul Institute, I really, love the levity of the universe.
Am I to understand that you had an institute called the Soul Institute before you met your husband, John Soul?
Yes.
So you then went and found a husband or a man named John Soul, and so then you became Adora Soul, who owns the Soul Institute. That is the universe speaking, if I ever heard it. Okay.
And the humor too.
Yes,
the humor of the universe, which is, I believe, a life lesson. Levity is a life lesson. So when John and I met in 2018, I had just wrapped up exit for the previous aromatherapy brand and business that I built from like a little TV table in an apartment. And especially grew that when my daughter was just an infant, through many different locations and wellness like Whole Foods Market and the spa industry. And I grew that from, essentially an idea, a concept, an intention, a prayer, into something that then became hundreds of stores throughout the US and other locations worldwide. And after I left that business, which was very difficult because in many ways it was like my first child, after too many years to even say here. And so when I met John, I was kind of in a new chapter of life, and I was working out at the Veterans Healing Farm with the original executive director, John Massey. And we would have vets that came out from the VA here in Asheville. And I worked in conjunction with my then co-author. We were co-directors of the Medicinal Garden. And we would have the vets come out and we would teach them how to make their own medicine from the herbs that we grew there. We even did a little bit of distillation. And then I would teach them how to make essential oil formulas for things like energy, for pain, for mood, and for sleep. Right? And these are some of the core needs that we have, of course, through our veteran community, but truthfully, through our humanity. And I bring this story in about my previous business because it really connects into the formulas that are now the foundational blends of aromatherapeutics for MilSpec. I had spent a number of years to get a meeting with Vitamin Shop, which you may have heard of. It's a large retailer of natural supplements and other natural products. And when I was able to go in for that meeting with my previous business, the buyer and I were talking. And one of the things that he said was that Vitamin Shoppe had invested a really significant amount of resources on consumer research to look at the buying trends for all of their customers. This is one of the reasons that they were interested in the essential oil blends that I had created around mood and feeling. And he said the top three areas where every person is looking to balance most consistently are energy, mood, and sleep. And so this really stuck with me. And when I was out there building the aromatherapy program for the Veterans Healing Farm, I realized okay, we got to start with these key areas, and then we have to bring in pain and inflammation. And at this time, I was also formulating for my new business, High Vibe Aromatics. I was formulating these nanoparticle essential oil formulas, which hadn't been done before in wellness. And I was combining them with nanoparticle CBD around energy, mood, and sleep. And so it was a trial product launch. And so as John and I were dating, and I was learning more about him. He was at that time active in the Air Force. And he was a captain then and a flight nurse. And he had been in the Marine Corps, which my father had also, who had fought in Korea. And I think that ultimately my dad was the reason I came into the healing arts field, but I can tell you more about that after. So essentially, John and I were talking about, well, what would it mean? How could we create a new concept, a new brand, a new mission around aromatherapeutics as an adjunct to mental health care? Because seeing this incredible increase in numbers around mental health imbalance, rises in medication, the number of suicides in our military, which is a staggering and a very difficult reality to understand and to kind of lean into in a way that, hey, how can we create a change here? What would it take to create a line of leading edge aromatherapy products and protocols? So it wasn't just the product, because you might have had, Jen, an aromatherapy product before, and maybe you didn't know how to use it or how effective it could be. So it would sit on your shelf, right? Or in your bathroom and gather dust. So we really know that our human nature, because we're creatures of habit, we need to have something that helps us to disrupt the old habit and create a new one. And so this was 2018, and John said, well, okay, but it would have to be MilSpec, right? It couldn't have CBD in it, right? Because even topically, someone in active duty would pop on a drug test. So it would have to be a military grade product, robust, effective, no frills in the packaging, which is one of the reasons that our packaging is really quite simple, except for a little bit of gold in it. And I'll tell you about that in a moment. But, that really became the genesis of MilSpec formulas. From that, we kind of did a little bit of drawing. I did a little bit of writing. As a writer, we're both writers. So we loved that creative process early in our relationship. I went ahead and reserved the domain, and then essentially walked away from it for a while. My dad passed away. I wrote my first book on healing at the DNA level, and kind of went into bigger build phase around the Soul Institute and some other projects until December of 2024, when I got a call from Doc Shaver. And that kind of, brings us to at least how the products arrived in your hands in some way at this point.
So I want to come back to the actual, we'll circle back to your meeting and the sort of focus on energy, mood, and sleep first, even though inflammation and pain, to me, inflammation and pain is what causes the energy, mood, and sleep issues. So I think it's interesting that their focus is these are the three that everybody's focused on. And even though it's inflammation and pain is the foundation that causes those things. And for military people, inflammation and pain are things that happen at that core level. And that's also where we get depression, suicide, because we have these things that it's not going to get better. It's not going to. And that's where I'd like to actually lead into the healing hut, because for Doc, she was brought to, as she and I met and bonded over this, she brought me to tears within the first hour of me being there, because, we introduced, and she took the time to tell me the story of Holly, who is a nurse, that one of her flight nurses who she worked with and then lost touch with. But Holly had TMJ, and she was married to a veteran who had his own issues, but her issue with TMJ, which I also have very, very badly, was not properly addressed. And I'll let you go into more and explain if I don't get something, but it was not properly addressed, treated, understood by VA. And the secondary condition resulted in depression, anxiety, and the pain was so bad. And I see this in my own clients with VA. The pain was so bad, and so because they don't understand what TMJ is. They don't understand the migraines. They don't understand all of the secondary conditions that go along with it. I'm lucky to see one of the she just happens to be in Maryland and happens to be the one that I got to go to. And every time someone knows who my doctor is, Dr. Vanessa Benevent, I'm going to plug her shamelessly because she's just awesome. They say, how did you get in with her? Well, frankly, I don't even really know, because I'm just lucky, I guess. But she is down the road and she's taken such good care of me. But she gets it. She gets all of the interconnected things. For Holly, she didn't have that. And when she didn't get that treatment, when she didn't get the understanding, she gave up and she shot herself. And when Doc found out about that, everything changed for her, because she felt like, I could have done something. If I had really appreciated or understood the pain she was going through, what she didn't understand about the condition, that she wasn't getting what she needed from VA, I could have intervened. I could have been like, wait, I have this treatment. I know this treatment. I know this person. And she said, I hadn't slowed down enough to understand or to keep in touch. And that's when she started the mission of Healing Hut, and I'll let you go from there.
Yeah, I think let's just breathe in together for a moment and honor Holly Caroon and honor her family for this journey, this walk that they have all faced, and the many other soldiers and armed forces members and their families that have dealt with similar. I believe that Dr. Shaver, Dr. Stephanie Shaver, who is the director of aerospace medicine in the Air Force, is one of the most passionate and brilliant individuals, dedicated, that I have ever encountered in my walk on this earth. Her degree of knowledge, of experience, of working with our wounded warrior community, their families, all of this, and certainly athletes in the past through Olympic athlete work that she did as a doctor. I think what happened with Holly hit so deeply that it became the doorway, right, for her to open and see this potential around the healing hut, and to not have a choice from deep within her being, as I would say, from her soul, to take action. And one of the things that Doc Shaver will say a lot is, if I, meaning her, or the healing hut, can save just one life,
Yes.
right, then it's enough.
Yeah.
And of course, those of us that are part of the team, and I'll share about that in a moment, our dream, our desire, our prayer, our fortified action and significant vision is much greater than that, of course, because the human spirit is designed to triumph. And when we come together and unite in shared vision, that triumph becomes a force that can move mountains.
Oh, yeah.
And that is absolutely the nature of Doc Shaver. She is a force of benevolence.
That's what it is. You walk in there. I mean, I laid down my proverbial sword in front of her and wanted to, I don't know, be knighted to be. I said to her, I will do anything you need, anything. And then from that moment, she kept saying, she's one of us. She's one of us.
I know she did. And I said, absolutely.
I will for the rest of my life. I'll do whatever that woman wants, because that is what she is, a force, and everyone knows who she is. And she did. She took me by I was kid sister, took me around, and she made sure I knew everything. She's like, I want you to go through every treatment. I want you to meet everybody. I want you to know, because you need to understand. Yes. I've never met anyone like her.
Exactly. It is truly a privilege to be of service on the team. When she called me and we talked in December for the first time, I felt the resonance so clear. I was a yes before I said it. And at the end of the conversation, she said, well, you're going to be on my team. You don't have a choice. We want the best. And really, the Healing Hut is a team of best in class practitioners and technology, from, in some places, different parts of the world, predominantly the United States, that can really get after nervous system modulating the stress response with immediacy. And to me, this is exactly one of the reasons I was a yes, because I know the power of aromatics after being in this field for 3 decades. And so when she said to me, okay, you're on the team, and later she said, yeah, I'd already submitted your name to the Invictus games even before, the conversation, because I just knew. And this is the nature of Dr. Shaver. And for those of us that are in like you, Jen, right, you're in a very clear path and capacity to be of service to the greater good. And so when we have that and we can just feel it in our bones, clarity and each step forward become much more easeful. And so at that point, when I talked to her in December, she said, okay, well, in 2 weeks, can you come to Washington and share what you're doing with the oils? And of course I said, sure. And Invictus Games in 5 weeks. And then I thought, oh, I can't really bring the pink bottles of my other brand of high vibe aromatics, right, to the military, because they're going to laugh at me. Mm-hmm. So I said to John, well, you know how we had an idea for this? We have 5 weeks to bring a concept to a brand with a full product line, packaging, and a whole system of what I term tactical alchemy. Because it's not about just having the product. Yes, we want to meet the moment. Do you need better mood, resilience in this moment? Do you need more energy? Do you need to calm down? Are you sleeping well? Or do you have pain or inflammation? We do have one other one that is around immunity. And so it becomes very simple in terms of the query, the question, right? To meet the moment, and then from there to elevate the individual's experience of life by modulating their stress response via inhalation. Because your olfactory sense, when you breathe in a pure essential oil, it's the fastest way that you can change your state and modulate your nervous system because of the pathway from the nose to the brain, the connection to the amygdala, the limbic system, some of these other systems of the brain that regulate so much of our mood, memory, and emotion. And with certainty, the amygdala, because regulates our fear response.
Explain what the amygdala.
The amygdala, this is part of our very ancient brain.
Okay.
So think about what humanity was like when we would have to run from predators, when we lived in caves, when we had to go out and hunt our food or be hunted, right? The brain structures formed in a certain way in the limbic system, which is really considered the most ancient part, the reptilian brain, and the amygdala. These ancient parts of us are still connected in very deep pathways at the neural level, at the subconscious level, at the energy level, of remembering what it means to have to run for our lives.
So this is fight or flight.
This is fight or flight. Exactly. So what happens then is when fight or flight gets triggered, right, through our stress response, or in many cases with our military community, PTSD, well, what happens? A whole host of physical, mental, and emotional responses move through the body. Anxiety, right? Sometimes we can't sleep. We feel overwhelmed. Brain fog, depression, suicidal ideations, right? Anxiety to the point of incapacity, right? I don't know what to do. I'm frozen.
Mm-hmm.
So how do we address that? Right. And this is where MilSpec enters with these very specific formulas to target mental emotional response through the brain via inhalation. And we can talk about more in some of the foundational science of this, but the Tactical Alchemy system is a neuroscience-based system that engages multiple senses. Because we know when we engage more than one sense consistently, simultaneously, well, then the target benefit outcome accelerates, and so does the sustainability of that benefit, right? Through neuroplasticity, we're creating new neural pathways and reshaping existing ones. Kind of like this. Imagine you're driving to work, and the road that you drive on daily to work has like this huge pothole, or a series of potholes. And some days you drive around it. Some days you don't, though, and you hit it hard, right? We know it's jarring for the vehicle. Well, the vehicle is your body, right? It's jarring for your emotions, right, through the nervous system. So what do we want to do? Well, we want to take a detour. And that's what the aromatics are doing via inhalation, using this tactical alchemy system, creating that detour, that new way to go, as the road gets repaired, as the neural pathways get reshaped that have been there in the past.
Because our bodies, from my learning and understanding this, are not meant to be in a constant state of fight or flight. And some of what is happening to our soldiers, to our veterans, is because of the trauma that they face, that they experience, whether it's through pain or whether it's through things that they've witnessed or seen or experienced, is that they get stuck in this state of constant fight or flight, whether they're reliving it, whether they're experiencing it. And we're trying to find different modalities of treatment to help them get out. And one of the things I like about MilSpec, about these essential oils, is it can be easily part of a 1-2 punch when it comes to working with, whether it's equine therapy, whether it's talk therapy, whether it is fly fishing. And then you add this, and it's such an easy way to really tackle something in a short period of time, quicker, to help help treat this, to get out of it. And it's non-traditional medicine, non-pharmaceutical,
Right.
in a way. And it's brilliant. So you tell me what happens with John. How does he react when you say 5 weeks?
Well, a little bit like, what do you mean? So, and my nature as an entrepreneur, I'm like, well, these are the 5,000 things that we need to start. Here's the green light, go.
And he should have said, because he was Army? No, he was Marine.
He was Marine and then Air Force.
Okay, so let's go, which is Army, I think, wouldn't have been his immediate reaction. All right, I give him right, yeah.
Yes. So he created all of the labels, even though he wasn't a graphic designer. Like, and this is so meaningful because this is his community, right? I don't have a military background.
It's so hard for me not to make the crayon joke. I'm sorry. It's so hard for me not to say, did you give him a box of crayons and tell him to make the labels?
Well, I'm a little particular. And one of the things that you'll notice about our labels, and I'll just put it right here. I don't know if you can see this. You'll see that there's gold foil on the label. And this is really leans into my greater vision for MilSpec, because the first mission, right, the first target is to meet the moment. What do you need right now? Right? Because through modulating the stress response in the moment, you're able to then relax the nervous system. You're able then to open it so that you can address pain and inflammation. Because when the nervous system, when you are wound up tight in fight or flight in a way that you don't realize it because it's become your habitual state of being, then addressing the inflammation, right, that core foundational aspect of systemic imbalance and disease process, you can't address it in a consistent and sustainable way without the nervous system being restful and receptive, which is why we say our slogan is, you're here, these products help you train your nervous system like you train your body. Right. And this is so important because the brain is like your supercomputer, right? The mind is the program that runs from your computer. And the nervous system is the highway that you are navigating your life in. Right. And so the products then become the ally. And the gold on those labels is from an alchemical process, right? That what the old traditional way of considering alchemy is turning base metal into gold. I believe that we have this potential within us, this innate potential. Right? We talked about the human spirit being designed to triumph. Well, in this way, I believe we have the potential to seed and proliferate future benevolent generational legacy by the use of this modality of alternative medicine and many other ones as well. And I believe that our military is ripe and ready to receive a new path forward. And one of the things that's really exciting is that I'll be delivering in just a few weeks the very first ever groundbreaking pre-deployment program based on tactical alchemy through the 5 senses, where we use solfeggio frequency, visual patterning, aromatic neuro-repatterning, and EOBT. These are 2 techniques that I created through
EOBT. Okay, you got to go back. You said solfeggio frequency and
solfeggio frequency. These are specific frequencies that are now being researched to see how they are able to modulate our brainwave function so we can enter a state more at will, right? Not just when we're sleeping, to enter these deep healing states, to be able to modulate our stress response, to reduce blood pressure, right, and heart rate when it's elevated. So these solfeggio frequencies, a very ancient form of knowledge based on, if anything, a a few lines from the Bible regarding John the Baptist. And this is how much of our do, re, mi was constructed from these very old Gregorian chants. And so these tones are ancient, and even one of them that we use for our rest and relax which is the one, Jen, I had videos created with the Solfeggio frequency. And so for the 8 days at Warrior Games, we had those on those two screens, right? 12 hours a day. And we were having people coming in going, oh, just quickly, what's happening in here? Oh, it feels so good, before they even go into a specific treatment protocol.
That's right. Yeah. Okay. And so what's the EOBT?
So the EOBT is where we incorporate the sense of touch, right? Of tactile. And tapping is something that maybe you or your viewers have heard before. It is used, EFT, in some Army and other military branches. It's known as the emotional freedom technique. For tactical alchemy, the system of really holistic, harmonizing, holistic well-being, holistic health uses the EOBT, but with the essential oils.
It's not like EMDR, is it?
Well, it's not exactly, because you're not using the eye movement, but you're first using the technique of ANR, Aromatic Neuro-Repatterning, to inhale the essential oil with a specific intention or focus and a specific cadence of breath to activate the parasympathetic nervous system, or modulate it depending on what is needed in the moment. And then the EOBT, you begin to make contact and then tap certain points. Now, Dr. Bob Kaufman, who is a legend with the work that he's done for over 40 years with the wounded warrior community, a former Navy psychiatrist, worked with many of the high-level operators, and actually was commissioned, built the team, and created NICO at Walter Reed, which addresses TBIs. And he is also an incredible acupuncturist. And so he is contributing to MilSpec is some of the more specific meridian points, like the Shenmen, which is around the ear. So when you see, if I did this with you when you were at Warrior Games with the oils after you inhaled them, you might have felt, oh, there's a real deepening of relaxation that happens, right? Because the acupuncture meridians that are in the ears and on the feet, well, they are connected to energy pathways in the body. And once we can open those pathways, the energy and life force is able to move through us, because just as you said before, the body is not designed to be in a state of illness or fight or flight. The human body always is desiring to return to homeostasis, to return to balance, right? This is how we've evolved in our humanity. The brain, right? You're a walking pharmacy. So what do we want to do? Well, we want to create the right set of conditions for the brain to optimize those feel-good chemicals, right? For example, in our Regulate formula, which I think that you had with the blood orange, I recall that you liked that one a lot. It's uplifting, right? Blood orange essential oil has been researched to show a benefit of upliftment for mild forms of depression. And bergamot, which is a small fruit from Italy, helps the brain to produce GABA. GABA mitigates anxiety for us, right? So when we're inhaling the oils with a new habit pattern of consistency and engaging the senses through the practices of tactical alchemy, well, we're able to harmonize the nervous system and then have that become the new path forward of our habits, not just the habit of doing it, but the neural pathways as well. We're habitually creating and grooving those new pathways versus grooving the old pathways of pain, suffering, dysfunction, and the expectation of further, like, oh, I just expect the other shoe to drop. Right. And this is what happens as the brain and body, mind and spirit responds to PTS and PTSD. Right. It's just like everything becomes a downward spiral. So we want to meet the moment and lift from there to be able to create a new baseline of health and wellness and vitality.
So you're going to be training 5, if I understand it, deploying groups and their families.
Yes. So this particular Army battalion in Louisiana begins their yellow ribbon programs in a few weeks in December. And so there'll be a number, I believe, 80 soldiers from that group and their families. Mm-hmm. So I will go and bring the program, the system, the oils. They're going with the Rest and Relax, which is the kind of the core foundation or signature oil of the Healing Hut, because it's all about nervous system modulation. Let's bring a sense of calm, and then we can address everything else, right? Sleep, wellness, well-being, positive outlook, inflammation, energy, mood. But we want to first bring that nervous system to that place of rest and relax, which, as John named all of the products, R&R, right? For that. And then the soldiers and their families in December will then opt in for this experience, for the use of the protocols that I'm training them in. And they're going to do the first ever kind of evaluation. And to me, this is really living the dream, Jen. There's other work where with the Marine Corps, which is so near and dear to my heart, where Colonel Foster, who oversees the wounded warriors through the Marine Corps and Airmen, has invited me to come to Camp Pendleton to bring Tactical Alchemy, because she had come in at the end of one of my classes at Warrior Games. And this is, really incredible, groundbreaking as well, because I built and brought their first ever Make Your Own Medicine, the Tactical Alchemy program, where every day I taught the soldiers and their family, and even 3 kids programs, how to make their own medicine for energy, for pain, for mood, for immunity, for hormonal balance. I mean, we had, it was an extraordinary experience. And the feedback from that has been phenomenal. And Warrior Games has already said, given us the green light to bring that program back next year. And really to see the members of the community, their families, even those that said, we needed this so much and we didn't even realize it. We didn't even know this was possible. And for the younger kids to say, well, how can I make something for anxiety? Because Jen, and this is so foundational. What we know now from epigenetic research is that the PTSD of our ancestors and our lineage doesn't end with them. It gets passed on from an epigenetic perspective. Sometimes it's the second or third generation that shows more pronounced physical, mental, and emotional responses from that trauma of the past.
One of the things I'm so concerned about with this 20-year war we've had is what the effects are going to be that we don't even know about with the families and the children, because of the multiple deployments, because of the effects that it's had on one or both parents that these kids have had to grow up with, live, take care of one or both siblings. And so this is really important. And I'm so glad that the focus is there. And it's so clearly the focus at Warrior Games on families and children, especially with the Healing Hut and Fisher Foundation, who sponsors it. Again, another whole wonderful program that I'd love to. I promised at the time, and again at the end of our almost was podcast.
Oh my gosh! Yes.
Yes, I mean, I have made promises that I will make good on at the beginning of the new year. So as we go to the next Warrior Games that I'll be a part of. I need to start touching base with them because I love them and I want to promote them as much as possible as well, because so near and dear to my heart, always have been, always have been. Um, so, well, two things before we close, because as much as I could spend hours with you, and we can do this again, because I'd love to hear how this goes for you also, as you move along in the process with this. I'm so excited for you that the Army is doing this. I think it's just amazing, and good for the Army.
Go Army.
Yes, go Army. I was going to say both good for the Army and go Army.
Yeah.
You know, I have so many Army friends that, you know, I'll have to, in our group chat, you know, make a big deal today. But also I wanted to say a special, this podcast is going to come out during the Veterans Day week, and also the 250th birthday of the Marine Corps. So I made a little joke earlier about your husband designing the label and whether you gave him the box of crayons because he's a Marine, because I have to give them a hard time. I grew up outside of Quantico and my dad's Air Force, and because all my Marine friends who I love so dearly, because they are amazing, and one in particular sat me down and gave me a serious rundown as to why the Marine Corps is clearly the superior branch, and did this the whole time. And by the end of it, I was sitting there going, okay, that's 100% right. And then at the end was like, and don't ever talk about the Air Force again.
Oh, it's so funny that I have to just leave you with the funniest thing, that from pretty much birth to age 12, I could only listen to the Marine hymn, a march, or classical music. And the indoctrination from my dad as a Marine from Korea was, you know, I was like the young boy, right? So I marched. I had the Marine hymn music box, the bank. I mean, it is still so ingrained in my being.
Adora, we went to St. Francis of Assisi. Catholic Church was right outside of Quantico. And in the Burger King that we would sometimes go to after Mass, from the halls of Montezuma to the shores of Tripoli, was actually on the Burger King, in the walls, and they would play it. So I knew that as well as I knew the Air Force hymn. This, no wonder my dad was worried.
Oh,
You know, honestly, from the time I was a senior in high school through coming home, everyone jokes about this, but he did have a relationship with the general on that base for a reason.
oh gosh. Well, ending with levity is so
Yes.
beautiful. What an incredible opportunity. Thank you for having me.
Happy birthday, Marine Corps.
Happy birthday, Marine Corps.
And to your husband, and thank you so much. Good luck to you. I wish you the best. You and I obviously are friends, and I look forward to working with you and the Healing Hut, and all good things. Mwah.
Thank you. Blessings. Thank you.